Hey guys, I was just having a look at comingsoon.net just a little while ago. It's a site that talks about upcoming movies, and I've got to say I was really depressed. Well, not really depressed, but I mean, one of the things that bothers me is that Hollywood seems to be going through a really major creative drought at the moment. Pretty much everything I saw there was either a sequel or a remake. I think there was the fourth Harry Potter movie. There was Pirates of the Caribbean 3. There was Fantastic Four 2. There was a remake of the Transformers. A remake of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And the second upcoming Batman movie, which itself is going to be a remake of sorts. Even though I'm actually looking forward to that particular one myself, because Batman Begins was really good. Actually unusual in that sense. But there just doesn't seem to be any originality in the film industry, or sort of like the mainstream or American film industry these days at all. I mean, it's just remake after sequel after sequel after remake. I mean, it's really bad. And it just had me thinking. I mean, I don't ask for, and I'm not saying we ought to necessarily have a completely overarching new story every time. I mean, maybe that's probably a bit too much to ask for. But I was remembering this film actually for some reason when I was outside earlier. I remembered this film, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which I'd seen a while ago. Had Sean Connery in it and a few other people. You might remember it. Anyway, even though the reviews that I read of it said that the action sequences were basically 1980s and it wasn't really all that great in one respect. In other respects, in one respect, I remember it was really, really awesome. Captain Nemo, or more specifically, the sub. I mean, I can remember actually after watching it thinking, if I hadn't known, or if I was going to tell anyone, is there a reason to see this movie, I would say the sub, the Nautilus. It is all about the sub. Forget the story, forget the action sequences, forget the rest. I know this seems a bit obsessive, but the submarine was one of the most novel and I think one of the most unique things I've seen in a movie for a while. It just looked really awesome, the interior of it, and Captain Nemo was really, really interesting too, like himself, like the way they I don't know where he was supposed to be from, but it was just really awesome. And I mean, that's what leads me to think, I mean, the story in general doesn't have to be new. I mean, there was something else that I was remembering, a particular episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine called Far Beyond the Stars. And if you haven't seen that, you might want to get hold of that as well. And that had two different stories in it. And neither of them on their own were particularly interesting, were particularly original or interesting. But the way that they put those particular stories together, like the combination of them, I mean, it just blew me away. I mean, I was watching it and I just thought, man, how did they think of this? Because, I mean, you just wouldn't think of it. I mean, it was just that much of a sort of a twist sort of thing. So, I mean, that was really, really good. There was another episode of Voyager called Sacred Ground as well, which some of you might want to check out. I mean, that's not sort of as original in that sense, but I still thought it was really interesting. And then, of course, the big one, the really, really big one as far as sort of individual elements, when even though this whole movie was original, but a really, really original element, in particular of the Matrix, was of course bullet time. And I mean, obviously, after the first film, it was plagiarised and ripped off and regurgitated absolutely to death, to the point where by the time they got to the second film, I mean, they'd be doing all these bullet time sequences, and we'd just sort of think, well, haven't we seen this all before already? But in the first film, anyway, it was really, really good. It was really, really awesome. And it was very, very original. I mean, we hadn't seen anything like that before. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, I think maybe what Hollywood needs to do is, even if they can't come up with like overall stories that are really, really unique, if they can just sort of look for little things, like just small things where there's some sort of a twist, or just like I don't know, if they just sort of slant something in a slightly different way or something. And I mean, as I pointed out in just some of the examples that I've given there, it really isn't sort of a very difficult thing to do. But anyway, if you haven't, check out some of those Star Trek episodes. They're really, really good. Deep Space Nine, Far Beyond the Stars, is what one of them was called. And the other one was an episode of Star Trek Voyager, Sacred Ground. And in terms of them throwing something original or unusual at you, when you watch them, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, well, I'll catch everyone later.